Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be our monthly ASIC pricing update video. This is going to be for October 2023. I'm going to go over a few different prices that have changed and kind of what the outlook is, right? So we're going to go over what's going on right now and where we think the price may be going next month, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? So let's get to this thing. So currently, a lot of things have happened globally since our last video, and that's what kind of has the prices kind of teetering, like we don't know what's going to happen, right? So currently, because of what's going on the other side of the world, BTC is now down to 26.7, which is still, it's in that range. It's on the lower end of the range now, but it's teetering on the point where it could potentially go lower, right? So the overall sentiment is pretty bearish. A lot of the altcoins are getting hit pretty hard though, right? They did have a little recent run up with certain ones, but it's kind of going back down pretty aggressively, right? So we're kind of in limbo there. We're waiting to see what happens these next few weeks or even just the next few days, right? And that's going to kind of give us more information as to what is going on. But overall, the market is definitely on a downtrend, right? One thing to note as we go into these prices. So overall profitability, that's part of the reason a lot of the profitability has gone down quite a bit, right? So things are starting to teeter on to the point. So a lot of the Caspa miners, all those have been going down as expected. One thing to know is even like the L7s, for example, this is on a 10-cent kilowatt hour. Again, you got to factor in for your electric rate, but even like at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, it's down to like $2.50 a day, right? And even a lot of the newer ones are starting to get to that break-even point slightly at a loss, right? So like the E9 Pro, for example, it's about only 39 cents a day profit on ETC. The KA3, for example, even at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, is at a 4-cent a day loss, right? So you have to factor in, think about your game plan. What are you going to do if it does go even further, right? Because we are in the bear market. There's still quite a ways to go before we are in that bull mode. So just have your game plan ready. Like have a certain threshold. Like, okay, once it reaches X amount of day loss, I'll probably unplug for a while. Think of your game plan, right? That way you're ready for it. And that's why I harped on it from the beginning, like when I bought mine, that I'm ready for if it goes at a significant loss, I have no issues unplugging, right? Just have that mentality ready, have that game plan ready, what you're going to do, right? Some people don't care. They're going to write off the electric anyway, and they're going to go all the way through, right? Whatever your case is, just have that plan ready. Don't be the guy who, like, panics about it, like, oh, man, it's going down. It's going to continue to go down. Everybody's telling me it's going to continue. And you panic sell not only your coins, but your ASIC. Don't be that guy, right? If you're thinking about going into ASICs, it should be a long-term game plan, right? It should be a bull market game plan. Think about these things, right? That's why I always do best case scenarios, right? Those little moon boy things, and then think of the worst case scenarios. Like worst case scenario, this happens. What is the game plan? Am I gonna unplug? Am I just gonna plow through it? Think about these things, right? Because it can happen, right? When I did these videos, like about the K3 and the K7 6 months ago, I know a lot of people were saying, there's no way. Look where we're at now, right? But again, I'm ready for it. Knew it was happening. Break even or better has been the name of the game this whole time. We're there. If it gets to a point where it's significant, they may be out for a while, right? And that's cool. I'll just buy the coin, or that instead of burning that electric, I'll buy the coin for a little bit. No issues there, right? But think of your own game plan. Not necessarily saying that there's any best way to do it. There's just your way to do it, but have that in mind, ready to go, right? So overall, again, profitability is not too hot, but again, it's because of the prices of the coins, right? So price-wise, the biggest drop was definitely those Caspa ASICs and Ice Rivers leading the way, right? Best bangs for the buck, right? Covered this extensively, so I'm not going to go through it too much. But price-wise, Coastal has one of the better prices from the bigger stores. They're all kind of in the same range in reality, but if they're in the same range, I would rather support a store that I like. Good customer service, good guys over there. They're doing their thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I am an advocate for getting your best bang for the buck. But if it's close to a certain thing, I'm going to go with who has a better customer service, who has their things going on, right? So the three I tend to mention a lot are like Coastal, BT Miners, and like Altair Tech. Main reason being is that I have personally purchased from them. I'm not sponsored by them. I do have like affiliate links, but I have personally bought through them. Good customer service, good communication, and that's why I recommend them, right? But at the end of the day, you got to go through the different vendors you're into, look at your prices, get your best deal at the end of the day, right? But if you're into any of these things I talk about, there is links in the description for these stores that I talk about. If you're interested, it does help support the channel, okay? But Coastal has it at 25 plus shipping plus tax, right? So factor in, this is one thing to think about. Look at your complete price when you're doing your comparison, right? Because at a quick glance, BT miners looks better, but they charge a flat $200 for shipping, right? Which is a little excessive. I wish they would change that and have it like actually calculated so that way it's not just that, because when you do a lot of these other stores, the shipping is anywhere from like 40 to 70, 80 bucks, right? None of them really have it at 200 except for them, for example, which again, I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. It's like you should be more, not necessarily honest, but it should be more a fair price, more calculated price, right? If you're going to do that, you should just include the shipping. That should just be $24.68. That way it's a little less misleading, right? Like I like the way Miner Bros does it, but they are on the high end, right? There's this $26.49, right? So do your comparisons, but make sure you go all the way through. And look at that. For Coastal, I do have a discount code. Again, it's going to be in the description. It's for like 2% off. It just pretty much just about covers the shipping. So something to consider there. The main deals, though, are with these BTC miners. And specifically, it's the two of the newer ones, right? We're going to go over those here in a second. Before we do, though, I just want to point out this article that came, or this tweet, I should say, that came out a few days ago. This is back on the 8th. So Bitmain apparently didn't pay some of the salary of some of their employees. Some of their employees leaked that email. It was supposed to be just an internal email, and they leaked it. It's up to you to decide whether you think there's concern. For me, if it was like their whole salary and they're like, we're not going to pay you, then that's pretty extreme, right? But what it seems like, it's they didn't get part of their like bonuses, it seems like. Which still spelling a problem, right? Something you really don't want to see. And it's just interesting because we don't really get too much insight into the financials from Bitmain, right? So it was kind of interesting to see that. Did get leaked. It turns out, though, a few days later, they did revise. Not revise, but they did put out there that they did eventually get paid. But it's just kind of interesting, like, what's going on there, right? So something to keep in mind. Just the main thing I would see from this is maybe there's more potential for more sales, more aggressive, like fire sales in a way to kind of clear inventory to make room for the next things, right? And I think that's part of the reason we're going to see these deals on these S19Ks, or we are seeing these deals. We're going to cover that here in a second, just to make room for the next miner, right? And then the next miner, right? Because the S19K just came out. We know that there is still a S19JXP to come out, and then the S21s in Q1, right? So we've got to keep in mind that if they produced a lot of those things, they're going to have to clear them out to make room for the next ones, right? So just, I think that plays into part as to why the S19K is such a fantastic price right now, right? And that's the main one we're going to harp on right now. And I highlighted this one only because, again, this one is supposed to start coming out now. We should start seeing some pictures of it in the wild and some details, like how the hash boards are, etc., etc. But just keep in mind, I would not purchase at this price. I know some people were saying, oh, I would get the top of the line, the 151. It's a complete ripoff, right? It is extremely high, most likely going to go down. And if it doesn't, it's still extremely overpriced. But the only reason I'm highlighting it is because there's a high chance that we're going to see some good sales on this thing starting potentially next month, right? And realistically, if things remain where they're at, expect to see some good price drops, right? Overall, this month, there wasn't really much change in the prices. It was literally those ice rivers and some of these BTC miners. But I think a lot of it is anticipation for next month for Black Friday, right? They're not going to want to go too low because people are going to be expecting for there to be sales next month. So if they are thinking of price reductions, a lot of them, they're probably going to wait to that point. Or it'll be like an extended Black Friday sale. Maybe it starts sometime mid-November, extending all the way into Black Friday. They're just kind of only at Black Friday sale, right? So keep that in mind. I think that's a big reason there wasn't very many variations, right? Again, the market is kind of iffy. If it stays where it's at or goes lower, expect potential sales. But at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe ETFs get approved 3 weeks from now and things go through the roof, right? Got to think about those scenarios. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Well, this was another interesting one. So there has been extreme price cuts on these things. I do not think they are selling very well. I think this is one of those things that they are trying to liquidate. A lot of the vendors, again, these things don't pertain to us. These things are like 5,000 watts. You have to have the containers or your little cooling setup for these, which is different from any of the other ones. And also a lot of these are like 3-phase and such. But some of these are down to like $6-7 a terahash, which is pretty insane, right? So something interesting. Either they're not selling well as a whole, or it's because you have to have their container units. Although people have started making like their own little radiators for these things just to be able to use them. But something interesting there, right? But price-wise, two decent deals. One being the S19j Pro Pluses, which we have been talking about like since they kind of came out. The 117 model, which currently BT miners is out of stock, is down to 1326. There's potential for this one to go even lower just because the better deal still is going to be the S19K. So keep in mind, depending on how well these things sell, these things may go down lower, right? So keep that in mind. Something to think about. So again, the 117 is out of stock. The 120 is 1426. But to me, the better deal, these S19Ks, right? We have been talking about them. I made a dedicated video just to it because of what we found out, which made it even more interesting, right? Because again, it is using those XP chips. Overclock potentials there, underclock potentials there, efficiency potentials there. A lot of good stuff coming from here, right? It does not have those aluminum backboards of the XP. Again, a lot of the XPs have been having issues. Even just recently, shout out to Hobbyist. He just had a video. His went down like in an hour, an hour of operation. But not just from there, but just overall, like hearing a lot of the big farms talking, a lot of the bigger players have mentioned that they have had much higher failure rates with the XPs than the other miners, and that they run hotter, right? A lot of the speculation from the get-go when people started seeing those aluminum boards was that that was going to be an issue, and it looks like it is, right? So just consider that both the Ks and the J Pro Pluses do not have those. They have actually the old S17 style where it's the individual heat sinks that are soldered onto the chips, right? And so far, we're kind of skeptic early on, but so far it seems like they've held up and it's continuing, right? So they do have two models listed, which is kind of interesting. All of them are 120T, right? Recently, they just added a 115T model at $13.98, which is pretty appealing. But again, no other store has them listed. Not even Bitmain has referenced them. Is it something that's coming down the line? Is this a pre-order for down the future, potentially? I would probably just go with the 120T just because it's available now, right? It's going to be shipping now. It's currently here. It's nice price, right? So they have it at $15.58, but that's actually not the best price. The better price, because again, factor in the $200 shipping, all the other fees. Altair Tech has it at $16.89, right? So better price there. Very intriguing model. Again, if you're interested in the details, watch that other video. A few more things have popped up. We're going to mention those here in a second, but one thing to factor in here is that there's even more efficiency to be had, overclocks to be had, underclocks to be had using other firmware. Luxor Tech, it looks like, has theirs available now. They have been posting a lot about it. It looks like Epic should be releasing theirs. The control board is there now, but the specific firmware for it should be available here fairly soon. I know Altair Tech was messing around with it. They did get a beta of it, and it should be available for everybody else here fairly soon, right? Pretty impressive numbers with this thing overclocking wise. They were able to get it up to 170. To me, what was more interesting is the fact that it just runs cooler than even like the XP, right? And Luxor actually had a good example of this. We'll cover that here in a second. But down to 1689, I don't think there's a whole lot more room for it to go down, right? If anything, maybe the J Pro Pluses, just because again, this guy is so much more appealing at that price point. But again, who knows, right? Maybe we stay at this point. Maybe next month it's 1500, then 1300. Who knows how much lower we go, right? But again, you have to factor in your risk to reward, what makes sense. Because just like it's damn near impossible to get the tops and the bottoms of a lot of these coins, it's hard to do it here as well, right? You have to look at your value long-term wise, right? Is it really worth maybe saving another 100 or 200 bucks, but it can potentially go up 500 bucks next month because ETFs get approved or something? You have to do that risk versus reward and be able to jump in, be able to keep that in mind, right? Live with that it's potential that it might go down, but realistically, how much lower is it going to go, right? Like, are you okay? What if it dips down to 1200? Are you okay with taking that risk? Is it worth it to save those couple $100 versus just being able to get it now, mining on it, right? Because think of that revenue you'd be losing by waiting out And then on top of the fact that what if it goes up, right? You have to find that balance, and it's up to you, right? But just fully understand that, again, these prices are volatile. It can go anywhere. You have to find that price point where you think it makes sense, right? But again, Altertech has the best price there. They do have those Epic boards. It's one of the few places you can actually get it from. One pretty cool thing, and they did this actually with Lux OS. I'm sure you'll be able to do it with others, and with the freaking from Pivotal Pleb Tech, their low-key kit, right? So they were actually able to get this, the complete, so all 3 hash boards to run on a 110-volt circuit. Pretty interesting, right? So not only, I know a lot of you guys would look for miners that you can use to heat your house or whatever, running at the 1200, 1300 watts. This would be the one to get, right? Because this one actually would be profitable, and it brings down the efficiency down to like an extreme. This is what's cool with having these firmware for these BTC miners, is that you have that extreme flexibility, right? So like in this case, for example, they're able to use all 3 boards, get it down to a 19.6 joules per terahash. Extremely impressive, especially considering the S21 is 17.75. Look how close that is. Obviously, it's only a 62 terahash, right? But it's pretty interesting what they're able to do here. Super, super cool. I know a lot of you guys can't do the 240 thing and you're into mining. Something to consider, not necessarily something I would do. It's just cool seeing these kinds of things, right? So pretty interesting thing there. Another thing to know, Luxor also did put this out. They kind of tested it with the J Pro Plus and the XP, and they overclocked it and then put it in hot climates and see what did better. So the K actually outperformed the other 2, right? So they did a test with it at 86 degrees Fahrenheit and then another one at 104. So you can see here the XP got underclocked and went all the way down to 108 terahash, right? What do you think was happening there? It was getting too hot, right? So they had to underclock it. It either did it itself, it had to go down just to get it to continue to run, right? It seems like it was actually just shutting off. You can see down here in the little note they put, it required underclocking to stay operational, right? So even like the other guy, the J Pro Plus, went down to 112 versus the K was at 149 terahash, right? And you can even see here in the cooler climate, it also outperformed it as well, right? And it's because it just stays cooler. There's less chips on the board. It does have those heat sinks. And also keep in mind the K Pro does have that unique thing where the 2 front fans are beefier than the others, right? It also requires actually a different plug as well. So something to factor in there, that if you are getting it with the intention of like hooking up an AC infinity fan, it may be tricky if you're using the stock board, because you're not going to be able to use typical spoofers for it. For 2 of the fans, yes, but not the other 2, right? It's like a 4-pin weird thing. I did cover it in that S19K Pro video I did. So just keep that in mind, right? That would be one benefit of going with like this Epic board, is that it will bring you to using the regular fans, and you'd be able to just do that there, right? So something to consider there. Even long-term wise, right? Because if you get fan replacements, we all know that those others are easily available. They're fairly cheap. But these other guys, because of that different plug, it may create issues there, right? So just something to consider there. But it was extremely interesting, especially this makes it appealing, especially for somebody like me where that is a concern, right? I'm in a very hot area. That is definitely a concern. And it's kind of cool to see that, right? So something interesting there. So to me, those are the better bangs for the buck for the newer, more efficient models. The overall bang for the buck for BTC miners are some of the used models. So I'm going to reference Coastal here again. They do have used 95Ts. Freaking 597 bucks, right? Insanely cheap. Coastal would be the only place I would buy a used one, right? Reason being is that their customer service is good, right? So let's say you get it, you have a bum fan or something, it's probably not going to be an issue for you to get a replacement fan from them. They're very customer service friendly, and they're good dudes overall. So I would consider buying a used one from them. Am I specifically in the market for these? Not necessarily. Maybe with the potential to just hang on to and flip, right? But again, I'm very limited on how many units I can have. So I got to be fairly selective, right? So for me, still appealing wise would be the S19K just for that reason, right? But overall, bang for the buck wise, bro, you can get 3 of these things for 1,800 bucks. And freaking insane, right? The flippability, It's gonna be good, right? So it's up to you though, right? Everybody has their own things and their own thoughts with it. Just again, keep in mind, Bitcoin mining, think of the halving, efficiency's king kind of thing. But again, if you have super cheap electric or you're going to host these things anyway, which again is another thing to consider. I know some of you guys are a bit like, oh man, I wish I can get into it, but I'm at 14-cent electric, or I'm going to go up to 21 cents electric in the next quarter. Consider hosting, guys. Coastal is another great one for that. That's probably one of the few places I would consider, right? So just something to think about there. And let's talk about the best deal period. This is a joke. This is satire. In case, so Gold Shell was hinting towards releasing new hardware, right? So they put out this tweet on October 7th. We are back to work. We will process orders and questions for you as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience, and we will launch new product this month. Exciting ? Gold Shell miners crypto. So what is it kind of alluding to? They didn't say it specifically, but a lot of people were getting excited that it may be a new miner finally, right? They've been kind of hinting towards it. There's been little things here and there. So I retweeted it saying, it better not be a watch you guys are teasing, right? Because they did a survey a few months back about a watch, which was super random. And then on the 11th, so like 4 days later, it turns out it is the damn watch, right? So I put out a tweet kind of calling them out, and then shout out to Coastal and D-Miners for like jumping on as well. Not to try to bash them or do anything, it's just, like I even mentioned it to them, it just seemed extremely out of touch with the market, right? Especially at a time when all these manufacturers are coming up with these dates, with these shows, showing off these new miners, showing off what's efficient, showing off what's coming down the pipeline. And they tease something, not specifically saying it's going to be not a miner, right? Like the proper way to do this, maybe to hint that it's not a miner, but it is something new coming down the line, part of a new ecosystem, whatever, right? But to come out and it was the damn watch, it just rubbed people the wrong way, right? So I did find it kind of funny. They did respond to the the comments we made. So they posted, hey everyone, we get it. The watch was a bit of a surprise. Right, so hopefully, again, it's not trying to bash them. The watch may be cool or whatever. It's just, it seems extremely out of touch, right? This is more of a bull market thing. Or again, they should have been just a little bit more clear, right? But they are starting to give hints that they are working on something. Again, who knows? Like, been hearing that since the fiasco with the little KD boxes at the beginning of this year, right? Who knows? Something to keep our eye on. But just a little satire there. But let me know, guys, in the comments. Are you guys thinking of any of these? Are you listening to that S19K Pro, man, is super appealing, especially if any of you guys got in on those K7s with BT miners. They issued that like $500 coupon or whatever. Like, I still haven't used it. It's the only reason I would purchase it from them is just to be able to use up that coupon. They did issue coupons for your, because initially if you pre-ordered, it was for the bigger model. We ended up getting the smaller model. So they gave everybody like a $500 coupon in compensation for it. Still haven't used it. It's just still kind of sitting there. I may finally burn it on this K Pro. I don't know. I've been going back and forth debating, but the deal is incredible, especially if this one is for real. It's insane, right? So again, it's one of those things you got to factor in how much lower you think it can go. What do you think is going to happen? Let me know. Where are you guys at? Are you guys thinking it's going to go lower? Realistically, I'm forcing myself to try to hold off for Black Friday. Like, if we stay sideways like this and we'll potentially go down, I'm predicting there may be some deals, right? So initially I was going to hold off on this video till a little bit later, just so the next one coincides with it, but I'm going to do it now. I just want to do it now just because of the deal here. This, to me, is really good deal. Seems like a solid miner. Seems like a solid unit. A lot of potential there. That was the main reason here, right? So we'll see how it pans out. I'll probably do another one. Probably one in the beginning of November again, and then one specifically for any Black Friday deals, right? Because there most likely will be others coming. Another one that I'm keeping my eye on are for What's Miners, right? They did do a fall sale recently, but it was mainly the old guys, the M30s. I'm interested in the M50s. So something may be there because they are going to debut their M60 here in a couple of weeks. So chances are when that does happen, they may do a Black Friday sale for like the existing M50s. Like, I don't even think the M50S Pluses have really officially came out yet. I know they were leaked, and I know they're available from certain vendors, but I don't know if they're necessarily out in the wild or easily able to purchase. Maybe we'll see some deals there. Because again, the S21 was priced pretty aggressively. Maybe this one also gets priced, and maybe existing inventory gets priced to reflect that as well, right? So just something to keep your eye on, especially if you're looking into BTC miners, right? Right now, that's where the deal is. And hopefully, I think if things continue where they're at, we may see some good deals on altcoin miners next month, coinciding with Black Friday, right? That's been kind of my target the whole time. That's probably when I will finally pull the trigger, just depending on where things go, right? So again, guys, let me know in the comments what y'all are doing. Let me know. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.